All right, let's just jump right in. What if I told you there was one single thing you could do right now that would immediately improve your focus, boost your mood, and actually change the very structure of your brain for the better? Today, we're going to break down the science behind probably the most powerful tool you have for your brain: physical exercise. Seriously, just think about it for a second. An activity that the moment you do it, you're sharper, you feel better, and you can learn things faster. I mean, what would that be worth? And okay, what if, on top of all that, the very same thing could build up your brain for the long haul? Make it stronger, more resilient, protecting it against awful diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. Would you do it? Of course you would. Well, guess what? The science is crystal clear. The single most transformative thing you can do for your brain is just to move your body, physical activity. And the story of how we figure this out is pretty incredible. It actually comes from a top neuroscientist who accidentally stumbled upon this by running an experiment on herself. Okay, so let's meet Dr. Wendy Suzuki. She is a brilliant, celebrated professor of neuroscience. Her whole world was her lab, totally consumed by her research on memory. But outside of that lab, her own life, well, it was telling a completely different story. So picture this. Dr. Suzuki is at the absolute peak of her career, scientifically speaking. But in her personal life, she had no social life, she wasn't active at all, and she just felt unhappy. The real wake-up call came on a rafting trip. It just hit her like a ton of bricks. She was the weakest person there. And for her, that was it. She came back, joined a gym, and went all in, with that classic type A personality, trying every class she could. Kickboxing, yoga, you name it. And yeah, she started feeling better, stronger, more energy. But the real breakthrough, the aha moment, didn't happen in the gym. It happened a year and a half later, right at her desk, while she was doing what she considered the hardest part of her job. She's sitting there writing this super demanding research grant, and trust me, this is notoriously difficult work, and this thought just pops into her head. A thought she'd literally never had while writing a grant before. She thought, wait a minute, this is going well. She realized she could focus for way longer, and her memory, the very thing she dedicated her life to studying, it felt sharper than it had in years. And that's when it all clicked. All that exercise, all that sweating, it wasn't just changing her body. It was physically changing her brain. She had, completely by accident, become her own best case study. So what did she do? She pivoted her entire research career to figure out exactly what was going on inside her own head. So what did she find? What does the science actually say is happening in our brains when we exercise? Let's dive in and look at the two key parts of the brain that get a major upgrade. First up, we've got the prefrontal cortex. It's right here, just behind your forehead. You can think of it as the CEO of your brain. It's in charge of all the big stuff: decision-making, focus, attention, even your personality. And then there's the hippocampus. You've actually got two of them, tucked deep inside your brain. This little structure is absolutely critical for one main thing: forming and holding on to new long-term memories. For facts, for events. It's basically your brain's memory maker. Okay, so check this out. After just one workout, something amazing happens. Your brain gets flooded with a chemical cocktail, a bubble bath of feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and noradrenaline. This right here, this is exactly why you get that instant mood lift, that jolt of energy right after a good workout. But it's so much more than just a temporary feel-good high. Dr. Suzuki's research shows that the benefits actually stack up in three really powerful layers: what happens right away, what happens over the long term, and the protective shield it gives you for life. So let's break that down. We're going to start with the good stuff you feel immediately, like the second you finish a workout. Okay, so we've already talked about that instant mood and energy boost, right? That's the neurotransmitters doing their thing. But get this, studies show that just one single workout improves your ability to shift and focus your attention, and that effect lasts for at least 2 hours. Your reaction times also get faster. So yeah, you're literally quicker on your feet, and maybe, just maybe, you'll actually catch that phone before it hits the floor. But here's where it gets really profound. If you make exercise a regular thing, we're not just talking about a temporary chemical boost anymore. No, you are physically changing the anatomy of your brain. Let's take a look at what that actually means. This part is honestly mind-blowing. When you exercise consistently, you actually stimulate the birth of brand new brain cells, especially in the hippocampus. It's a process called neurogenesis. This makes your hippocampus literally grow in size. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO, also gets bigger and stronger. Think about that. You are physically building a bigger, better, more powerful brain. So why does this matter so much? Why do we want a bigger, stronger prefrontal cortex and hippocampus? Because these are the exact two areas that are most vulnerable to scary neurodegenerative diseases and just the normal cognitive decline that comes with aging. By building them up, you're creating a fortress for your brain, a cognitive reserve. It doesn't mean you can't get these diseases, but it means it takes them much, much longer to actually have an effect. Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But the science is useless if we don't actually do it. So let's get practical. Let's talk about a simple, totally achievable plan to get all these incredible benefits. And this, of course, brings us to the question that's on everybody's mind. Okay, what's the absolute minimum I can get away with to get all these awesome brain benefits? Well, I've got great news. You do not have to become an ultramarathon runner. The science says the real sweet spot isn't intensity, it's consistency. The target you want to aim for is exercising 3 to 4 times a week. That's the frequency that really kicks off those long-term structural changes we were just talking about. And for each of those sessions, the goal is at least 30 minutes. That seems to be the magic number. It's enough time to get your heart rate up, which unlocks both that immediate chemical boost and helps build those permanent long-term changes. And look, getting your heart rate up is way easier than it sounds. You don't need a fancy gym membership. A brisk walk around the neighborhood, that counts. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator totally counts. Dr. Suzuki even says that a really vigorous vacuuming session can get you there. I love that. The point is just to move your body. You know, maybe the best way to think about all of this comes from Dr. Suzuki herself. She calls exercise your 401k retirement plan for your brain. And that's perfect, isn't it? Every walk, every workout, every flight of stairs. It's like you're making a deposit. You're investing in your future self, building up that cognitive reserve for a healthier, sharper brain down the road. So, the science is clear. The benefits are just undeniable. And the plan is actually pretty simple. The only question left is, what's the first small deposit you're going to make into your brain's 401k today?